Beneath a brightly shining moon, it does not merely bask in the light, but absorbs the moon's brilliance and uses it as a veil. And with unmatched speed, death comes swiftly, in elegant and gracious form, never witnessed by its prey.
What's good, everyone? It's your boy Dak908, aka the Dig Dug himself, and ladies and gents, boys and girls, Duggers and Diggers. Today we have a very special monster. First I have two things. Well, I'll get these other things later out. I need to get the important stuff out first. This is Lucent Nargacuga. Lucent Nargacuga made his introduction in the 3rd generation in Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. It wasn't the very end game monster of that game, but it was one of the last couple monsters you fight between it, Abyssal, Agaiacris, and I believe Dia Morales. But nevertheless, it is definitely one of the monsters who's actually super cool, super unique. We haven't seen anything of it since 3U, which was back in 2013 for Western audiences. I believe March 2013. Nevertheless, so good to see my man again. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, he hasn't changed a whole lot. Well, he's changed a lot. Thematically though, everything works very well with him. Its big claim to fame is its ability to go invisible. It can do this at will, you know what I mean? It'll say, you know what, I'm gonna go invisible now. And it isn't like completely wholly invisible and is like super broken. No, in this game it's a little easier to actually track because what's known as spatial audio, which is when you can hear things to the left, to the right, front, back, and all that of you. So you can kind of hear where it's landing when it actually does go invisible. Also, when it's actually enraged, it has red eyes. You could follow the tracking red eyes to see where it's actually going. In a lot of cases, whenever it goes invisible, it leaves a huge like cloud where it actually is, and it does land in certain locations. You can see the dust clouds kick up when it lands, so it's not impossible to track, but if you're not paying close attention, it can probably trip you up. So speaking of going invisible, it can do a couple of things when it does go invisible. It'll more than often not attack out of it. It will also tend to traverse the map a bit, try to get behind you, onto the other side of you, and whatever, and then come out of it and try to attack. So the first thing you'll probably end up seeing it do is just doing a simple claw swipe. No big deal, no harm, no foul. If it hits you, big whoop. If it doesn't hit you, which for me, luckily enough, happen more often than not, it would just completely whiff in most cases. So you're gonna be relatively fine. If you get hit by it again, it doesn't really do a whole lot of damage, you're fine. But it has a couple of things that it will do from invisibility. Once the monster itself starts getting enraged, it has the means to go from invisibility into a tail slam, which can be pretty drastic. It also has the ability to do a double tail slam and a double tail spin. So speaking of the double tail spin, it has a super unique tail spin, which is wholly unique to it, where it will roar and immediately go invisible. That's your sign to know that it's going to do this particular attack. It'll roar, immediately go invisible, and it's going to do the super Beyblade spinny thingy where it covers a lot of ground and spins at the same time. Now, if you block this attack, you're taking considerable amounts of chip. You kind of don't want to block the attack unless you can kind of figure out where you're going to be when it actually does it, so you can actually block and take as little chip as possible. Other than that, try to get out of the way as best you can. Don't try to counter it. It's multi-hitting, so you'll counter the first hit and get completely destroyed with the second couple of hits. If it does hit you, it will knock you up in the sky. It doesn't combo you if you're in the sky, but it will knock you way up in the sky. Like, it will pop you up like 20 feet in the air. You've seen a couple attacks that do this in the game, where you just get hit and you just like shoot straight up in the air. Just wire fall out of it and you're fine. Now from there, it has another attack where once its tail spikes are gathered, it will actually pan the camera out a little bit. I don't know why it does this, but it'll pan the camera out a little bit when it's flicking its tail around when there's no spikes on it, and it will gain the spikes. When it does this, it is now previous to do a couple attacks. It now has the poison element, if you will. Once it slams its tail down, some slams, not like in 3U where anytime it swung the tail you got poison spikes, but when it sometimes does it, I guess when it really wants to, it'll shoot poison spikes out. They're not like 3U where they used to track, and this one they're just kind of there. I don't think I've ever been hit by them. Well, maybe like once or twice, but it's not as bad as it was in 3U where you had to completely do everything you could to either dodge or block it or whatever. But it'll do that. If that's not your cup of tea, it has a totally cool and super unique ability where it'll like do it. It'll fling its tail up again and it'll rain poison down from the sky. It's freaking sick. Now it rains in a circle around its body, or around any given particular area that it's actually at, and then it slowly expands outwards. So it'll rain for a bit, expand, rain for a bit, expand, rain for a bit. You'll see it on the ground. The first time I saw it, I was super confused. I don't know what was going on. If anything, it's a great tool to actually negate you, the player, by having area on it. So if you're outside of the circle from in the beginning when it does it, it's not like it's impossible to get in. It's just harder to get in because you want to time it so that way you don't take the poison damage. Also, the actual raw damage. It will rain down these spikes, and it looks like poison, like it's raining poison, like a purple rain. But again, it's actually spikes, so if you actually run into it, you will get hit with an actual attack. So it's not like you just walk into it and it's just like water on your face and it's just poison out, you're poison out. Nah, it's a full-on attack. You can get hit with this and actually die. So with that said, there's still a couple of things to talk about. Let's talk about the biggest thing that it has. It has what I lovingly refer to as a phase 2. Whenever you'll know when it goes into phase 2, because if you're doing it solo, if you fight it a couple of times, you know how the characters, like the story characters, like to talk to you in certain moments. Well, in this one, it's no different. It'll say, this is some kind of trickery thing it's doing, but realistically what it's doing is it'll go super invisible. Like, it'll really creep on you, like real serious. Like, the music will tone all the way down, and he'll go invisible, and he'll pounce rather around the area for a while. When he's done pouncing, he'll try to switch it up on you, make it a little difficult for him to for you to track him. But when he's done pouncing, he does this huge tail slam. I mean, it's pretty tremendous. You don't want to get hit by this thing. And after that, he is in a particular state when he's enraged to do double tail slams outside of from invisibility. So he'll do, it's pretty nuts. It's what makes me carton here. He'll do the double tail slam, and from the double tail slam we'll have spikes. The spikes themselves, I believe, shoot not along the ground, but like at a fixed height in the air, so he can snipe you out of the air with the spikes, which is what happened to me. So it can get kind of wild, and it's only when he's first done that one attack that I talked about, where he pounces a whole bunch in completely invisible. After that, he has this particular move set where he'll do that wild attack that I told you about, and a lot of other times he'll do additional things from invisibility, where normally he'll do from invisibility, he'll just do like a quick tail swipe or maybe a arm thrust or whatever. He'll do multiple actions from invisibility, because there's usually a limit to how many things he can act, or how many actions he can take from invisibility. In the outset, it's just like one, but afterwards I think it turns up to like 2 or 3. It's kind of like an install, sorta, but not really. I mean, it happens for the most part around halfway, or about 60 to 70% through the fight. So unless you're like really slamming his face in with a group of people, you will see it at the latter end of the fight, and it will probably last for quite some time. But with that said, that's essentially everything that's truly needed to be noted about for Lucent Nargacuga. I don't think I mentioned his weaknesses. His elemental weakness is, I should have mentioned it much earlier, is ice, which is cool because it was ice back in the day. Use ice or dragon to do any true damage to him. I'm in here using a poison gun lance. I knew that it was completely resilient to, not completely resilient, but poison does next to nothing against this thing. I do end up poisoning it, but yeah, it was nothing. So this fight took a lot longer than what it truly and earnestly needed to be. But for the most part, that's essentially all there really is to know about the Nargacuga in terms of like its battle prowess. It is a very quick monster, so if you fought Nargacuga before, which you probably should have, it's like fighting one of those, but like much better. Like, it's take everything you learned from fighting Nargacuga and go in here with the lessons and things that I'm teaching you now, and you'll be relatively okay, because it's still a Nargacuga at heart. So a lot of things, a lot of its mannerisms are still going to be the same, and you can use those same tactics used before to essentially come out on top when fighting this guy. Moving on to gear, because it's a doozy. Alright, so Lucent Nargacuga's gear has always been good, and this time is no exception, okay? So, off the top, we're looking at Handicraft 5, which gives you a plus 50 on your full-on sharpness. So, it extends your sharpness meter all the way to the maximum, no matter what weapon you have. Now, a lot of weapons themselves have additional sharpness. Some have purple sharpness, but you have to actually have Handicraft to have them. This is the way to actually get that. Ammo up for the bow gunners and such is good because it increases the clip size for most ammo types, so the majority of them, which is be good. Agitator, which you already know about, monster gets pissed off, attack increase and affinity increase. Maxed out is 20 on the attack and 15% affinity, so that's actually pretty good. Sneak attack, this is a slapper right here. So with this set right here, it gets you 3 to sneak attack. At max strength, which is 3, you get an increased 12% attack bonus when attacking monsters from behind. Now, I know this sounds kind of awkward, but look at it like this. If a monster is facing you the other direction, you automatically have 12% more attack on top of whatever attack you already have. That's awesome. If you trap this monster, you are smacking this thing something vicious. If that monster is enraged, you are smacking this monster something vicious. If you're in a team setting and the monster isn't focusing on you, you are doing godly amounts of damage. Sneak attack is godlike, okay? Sneak attack 1, not so much, but you want to max out to 3 so where you get the 12% chance. It's really, really good. I recommend it. Highly great, or highly useful, great skill. Next, we're looking at critical boost. Increase your crit from 25% to 30, which is solid. Adrenaline rush. Now, adrenaline rush is just like a couple other skills we've seen thus far, where if you evade the monster at the right moment and a thing happens, like blade scale hone, and then there was another one I think that Gold Wraithine had. I forget off the top of my head. But when you dodge at the right time, you get 30 to your attack, which is nuts. So if you look at this whole set, let's say you dodge him at the right time, you can do a sneak attack and he's pissed off. You're doing insane damage, which is pretty awesome, honestly. So Adrenaline Rush is the other really good ability, and to help with that, you get Evade Window. Now it's only 3, not 5. If you had 5, it'd be pretty cool. I would put it to 5, so that way you can utilize the Adrenaline Rush as best you can. And I would also put Evade Extender on here as well, so that way you can like backdash or roll to the back of the monster a lot easier. And last but not least, spread up for those bow gun users. Increase the power of spread ammo, shrapnel, and spread type arrows. So the armor set is really, really good. The weapons themselves are also really smacking as well. Now, they're not as broken as what they used to be. They were literally the best weapons in that of 3U. What they did in this game for a lot of the weapons it's looking like thus far is like they look at whatever weapon or whatever monster it came from and say, okay, this particular monster had a really cool thing going in this regard right here, but not so much in this regard over here. So what these are doing, they're going to take what was not good and make it great. So for example, Nargacuga had really low raw. Lucent Nargacuga has really great raw. And yeah, they kind of swap it like that. So Lucent Nargacuga doesn't have any affinity. Nargacuga has affinity. Lucent Nargacuga has a lot of raw. Regular Nargacuga doesn't really have a lot of raw. And they both have really good sharpness, especially if you're running Handicraft 5, which you probably should, closest to the end game, because it's just really meta. And if you're running Handicraft 5, you have that huge chunk of purple, so the sharpness that Nargacuga has versus the Lucent Nargacuga sharpness isn't necessarily waver too much. But if you're not running Handicraft at all, Lucent Narg has less sharpness than that of regular Narg. But at the end of the day, it's just Narg with poison and no affinity. That's how I look at it. Pretty solid weapons. They're great for poison, and they're pretty solid for just having a good raw weapon. And if you have Handicraft, amazing. Okay, so to wrap Lucent Narg in a bow, let's look at it like this. It's an old monster from the 3rd generation that hasn't been seen since its inception in the 3U game. It is a variant, almost. No, it's a rare species. I'm pretty sure it's a rare. If it's not, whatever. Someone who's more notable actually correct me in the comments. If so, please do so, because I forgot what it actually was. The brain tends to waver in times like this. Nevertheless, so the cool thing to know about Lucent Nargacuga, it goes invisible. That's its main gimmick. Its main claim to fame. It's a Nargacuga who moves really quickly that also can go invisible to mix you up, making it a little bit more difficult to actually follow where it's actually going, follow where it's about to come from, where it's going to, so on and so forth. But if you actually want to do the good damage to this young man, I mean the good damage, you really want to do the good damage to this thing, you want to bring yourself some ice. It's very susceptible to that of ice, and much like any other regular monster, it is still a Nargacuga. It doesn't have any really crazy or readjusted hitboxes, so hitting it in the head is going to do great. If you actually have impact, it does even more, so that's one thing to note as well. Speaking about doing damage, it can do a lot of damage to you. One way to mitigate some of the damage it can do to you is by damaging its tail. Now here's the thing. Let's talk about the tail real briefly. We haven't talked about the tail at all thus far, but we will talk about the tail now since we're talking about damage. If you break the tail, yes, break the tail, not cut, break the tail. When it has the spikes on the tail and you do enough damage to the tail, it will break off the spikes. It will stop doing all the extra wild things that it does. By that I mean throwing the spikes in the air, causing the purple rain, spinning around or slamming his tail around and having the spikes shoot out, so that way the poison pokey things don't bother you. It won't have access to any of those abilities, so it just won't do any of those if you break the tail. Now, if you want to cut the tail, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I've yet to cut the tail. The tail has an amazing amount of HP attached to it. That's all I'm necessarily told. I've tried cutting this tail for multiple hunts. I'm 10 hunts in on this thing and I've not cut the tail once. And there have been hunts where, like, mind you, not completely by myself, because this hunt would have taken a lot longer than what it needed to. But me and a couple of friends, we sat together like, yo, let's cut the tail. We were going ham hocks and could not cut the thing. It is possible, however, but it's just gonna take a long time. It has a huge amount of HP, almost the same as the freaking monster itself. So that's my little spiel on the tail. It is cuttable, but you have to put some work into it. And if you don't like it doing all the weird poisey, spinning around, slappy things, break the spikes off the tail when it's doing the thuggery and it'll stop doing the damn boogie. Now, moving over. So, we talked about its elemental weakness. We talked about some of the really notable attacks it has. It has the roar into invisibility, which immediately afterwards will do this giant spinning Beyblade thing, which does an insane amount of damage. Don't get hit by that. When it changes phases, it'll go invisible, the music will quell all the way down real low, it'll pounce around quite often in the invisible state, and then it'll have a huge tail slam to slap you with afterwards. Don't get hit by it, it does an amazing amount of damage, you might cart to it straight up. After that, it actually has the ability to go from invisibility into slams. When it goes from invisibility into slams, it is going to slam twice. It will always slam twice, and both of these slams will be accompanied by spikes. So you kind of want to watch out what you're doing, because if you're not careful, you actually go from slam into slam and still get caught with spikes. Is how I carted twice. It's very unfortunate. It's very unruly. It's pretty godlike at the end of the day, honestly. But just be careful of it. It's something that it will probably get you once or twice if you're not paying a lot of attention. Don't take too many slam block hits, because the chip is tremendous as well. So outside of that, the most notable thing about the Lucent Nargacuga is that it's quick, it does lots of damage, it has very good armor, it has very good weapons. It's one of the best monsters I've fought in this game thus far. It's a lot of fun to fight. It's incredibly stingy with the rare drops. You know, I'm gonna keep it a buck. It's been not a lot of fun getting those things, but at the end of the day, if you focus on what's directly in front of you, it will help. Okay, it will help you. It'll help you, and then you won't get bodied as hard as I probably got bodied when fighting this thing. Keep your eyes open, especially when it goes invisible. Listen to your ears. Listen to your ears. Yeah, I guess listen to your ears. Use your ears. Use the fact that the game has spatial audio, so you can kind of hear where the monster is, even if you can't see it. That's going to help when it actually goes invisible and it does the huge pouncy thing all over the place. It's going to help when it goes invisible after it does the huge pouncy thing, and it has the ability to go invisible and do it multiple actions outside of it. It's just going to help a lot. Your senses will be tested if you're not as like in tune with yourself. This is one fight I don't like to fight without the game audio, because of that. I like using the audio cues that the monster gives off when it goes invisible to figure out where it is. But I think that's everything. Lucent Nargacuga, heck yeah, shout out to your boy. If you guys enjoyed the video, please consider, I don't know, doing nothing. I guess you can do whatever you please. You can not even watch the whole video, it doesn't matter to me. But thanks so much for watching this video, guys. This has been your boy Dak908, aka the Dig Dug himself. Lucent Nargacuga is an amazing monster, but you know what else is also amazing? My Patreon. Not really, you can if you want to. I'll put a link in the description. But what I really want to talk about is I am no longer doing lots of overtime. I'm not sure if any of you guys remember, but I made a video a while back where I said, hey, I had to like work 16 hours a day for like 3 weeks so that way I can fix my car. I finally did that. The car is fixed. One small problem though, but it's under warranty. It's fixed but not fixed correctly, so I have to take it back to the shop. He's gonna do it for free, but getting it all sorted was actually the biggest pain. But we no longer have to worry about that anymore. I'm not working 16 hours a day. I'm not working double triple overtime. I don't have to worry about any of that anymore. We were going to go back on schedule and start making at least 3 videos a week. I have this video coming out for you guys today. I have another one coming out Friday, and maybe another one on the weekend, depending on what my weekend plans are. I plan on doing some cool stuff with some friends this weekend, and if that actually happens, maybe no video, but if that actually falls through, which most of my plans tend to fall through, we will have another video for you guys this coming weekend. There aren't that many monsters left to do, so once we complete the decks, we're gonna backpedal a bit and start looking at monsters in more creative fashions, where I make the monster analysis video thing. We're gonna pump that out a bit more. We're gonna try other games as well. I'm just gonna slow down on the image content in this exact facet, the monster decks videos. We're gonna try and do cooler things like live streams and highlights and all sorts of other cool stuff. So yes, thanks so much for watching the video, of course, and everyone who actually watches the video after I say it's been your boy and all that good stuff, because you guys are the ones who actually you know what's happening, know what's going on. You guys are in the know, if you will. And yeah, I kind of like having this little talking session at the end, because like I get to sit here and just ramble on about whatever. But anyway, guys, this has been your boy. Please take care. Love you all to death. Video coming this Friday. Have I recorded it? I can't remember. If I haven't recorded it, it's time to go to work immediately after this one. Nevertheless, it's been your boy. Take care.